we dealing with stuff.
Right.
And in our society, you remember our society is it developed differently from, let's say, first world countries. We were all brought here and made into a kalaloo
Yeah.
and mixed up with different cultures and different belief and different backgrounds. So
Yeah.
our thinking is way different from the melting pot that you'll call the United States of America, which is traditionally English based. It's traditionally persons from Europe, and their way of
Yeah.
thinking is different from we from the eastern part of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So whether you come from Africa, which is east of here, or you come from
Yeah.
India or Syria or all these other countries, our culture is much different. So the way we look at things are much different from the way a European will look at things. And then we have a lot of our folklore and folk tales that dictates the way we see things.
Mm-hmm.
And that is another component of the way our minds are molded. So the old
Okay.
wives' tales that we have, the
Yeah.
things it's not some of it is not rooted in science, and we have to be honest about that. It's not rooted in science. It is just move along, old talk,
Yeah. Yeah.
and one old talk leads to another, and a person will come up with a concept, and they will say it with authority as though they know.
Mm-hmm.
There are persons who will tell you things like, so they will tell you something false, and they'll say, well, I hear from good authority. The person who tell me that he know, and he know
Yeah.
what he talking about.
Yeah.
That is the strength in whatever they're telling you, but it does not necessarily mean that it is truth.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. So age is just a number, is a factual thing, because if you okay, it's like this: you're a younger guy and you're thinking old,
Yeah.
you're going to be reacting in such a way. And if you
Right.
tell yourself, because of my age, I'm incapable of doing certain things, you are limiting yourself and you will not be able to do those things.
Right.
Now, in the aging process, we know there are a number of things that happens to the human body as we age. One of
Yeah.
the things that happen is that we start getting aches and pains that we never did when we were younger. So, some person might say, oh, my old bones. I get it,
Yeah.
things like that. They'll make statements like those things. And they start thinking that I shouldn't be doing certain things. So mentally now their capacity changes, and they are telling themselves, I am unable or incapable of doing things. Now if you have diseases as you age, diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol, different things that are affecting the body, you also know those are the things that is going to allow your mind to stray along certain paths. So let's say you may have a good sex drive, a good libido, but because of restrictions in the blood flow, you're not getting a good enough erection. Obviously, obviously, you're going to tell yourself it's because I'm getting old, but you're not
Yeah.
going to be telling yourself, well, maybe I can treat my affliction and be able to do things of a sexual nature. So sometimes we allow the age to overpower us.
Right.
That's why there's a school of thought that teaches you, think young, always think young. Consider yourself to be a young person. Rejuvenate yourself from within. We know the power of the brain. The brain can actually cause us to behave in a particular way. Do those things.
Right.
Allow the brain to take over. But in our tradition and our society, the the calypsos that we hear are also one of the things that shape our mind and our behavior.
Right.
So if a calypsonian sings about X product giving you a long lasting erection, everybody wants to go and get that product.
Yeah.
Some kind of bush,
Yeah.
but there's no science behind it.
That's right.
So let's say one person is 45 years of age and another person is 65 years of age. Would it work the same way for both parties? And the answer is no. But Across the board, everyone is going to say this is the best thing.
Yeah.
And I see that all the time in my profession. I hear it all the time in my profession. Persons who will swear by certain products, and I'll ask them, well, what is the science behind it? And let me give you a very good example that maybe you can relate to immediately. You see so many products being advertised on television now for testosterone boosting,
Yeah.
right? But ingesting products to boost your testosterone is a no-no. That don't happen. That really don't happen. Things that help you to maintain testosterone, nobody talks about it, which is the sleep that you should be getting, the exercise that you should be doing. And if you have low testosterone, no amount of tablets that you will take will cause your testosterone to go up. You have to do testosterone replacement therapy. But because these things are touted by advertisement that it's going to raise your testosterone, and you see a man walking around buff and he looking like he could fight a lion, doesn't mean to say you have good testosterone.
I hear you, Doc. I hear you. I know you would demand to answer that question.
So before we get started with today's program, I want to remind everyone out there that Saturday Night Fever is coming up on May 20th, 2023, and it's being held at Passage to Asia in Chaguanas. This is the ultimate back in times party. 12 DJs, one entertainer, music like that. We have a clash between 102.1, 102.3 Lit FM and 105.1, the DJs from those two radio stations, supplemented by Boom Champion. Right? The general ticket is $200, the VIP is $450, and the VIP tickets include a full meal and 2 alcoholic beverages. Right?
Sounds like
And I'm also celebrating my birthday around that time also. My birthday is on the 16th, so we partying on the 20th.
good.
No need to walk with any presents. Your presence is my present. So let me call out some of the DJs for you. Rishi Ram, Dr. Russ, Dr. Hyde, DJ Caro, Sensational Sammy, Greg, George Gonzalez, DJ Kyle, DJ Spanish Papi, DJ Carey, Chumps, The Genius, and that is Team Unstoppable from Lit 102.3. You know, I must support my boys, eh?
Of course.
I am 102, we are 102.1. I've always been 102.1 for the last 23 years. And Lit is what, a year and a half or 2 years old? Almost 2 years old. And we have to support them also.
Of course.
So I'm asking all the listeners, all the viewers, everyone who is listening to the program, those of you on social media and whatever else there are out there, come out and support this. It's going to be one hell of a party, something you have never experienced before. We are also having a guest DJ. So it's going to be fun. And you can contact me directly to get your tickets, 740-1961. And that number again, 740-1961. So today's topic, which I think ties into some of what you have asked there, is arousal among the male and female population in the different age brackets. What brings about this arousal? Why are people aroused sexually? Why aren't women like animals and they go into heat and you could only have sex with them when they're in heat so they go make a child? Why are we allowed by God or whoever else out there, whoever he or she may be, to have sexual feelings and want to act on those sexual feelings? What causes these things to happen? Why do children who have not even reached puberty also have sexual feelings? Why are these things happening? How come we say that we have laws against persons underage having sex, but yet still persons underage do have sexual feelings? Why is that so? What causes this stimulation within us that we would want we would have these feelings for sexual intercourse, or to fool around to get the nice feeling that is associated with things that are of a sexual nature. Why do these things happen? How can we understand this as a parent, as an adult, as a person who wants to give guidance to others? How can we understand this better so we don't put labels on individuals? One, we are able to help individuals if they come to us with these feelings and want to discuss it. What are the things, or how do we go about educating ourselves, and what are the things that we can do to better understand the younger generation and their behavior, and us as we age and our sexual behavior? What are we doing about it? So let's take the young developing mind. The young developing mind, you see, the brain being the largest sex organ we possess in terms of its capacity and what it can do, is stimulated at different points. There's no one side of the brain that acts out on its own. The frontal lobe, the rear, the anterior, the posterior, the sides, no one part is stimulated in any one action. There are some parts of the brain that greater emphasis is placed based on the individual as they are developing. But somewhere within our brain, the reptilian brain, is that capacity that we have to reproduce. We all need to reproduce to keep the species going. Without reproduction, which involves sex, the species will die. We will become extinct. So the first and foremost part of our brain, the reptilian part of our brain, knows about the reproduction part of our body. We need to reproduce ourselves. So when you have these stimulations taking place in the child's mind, it also touches upon that part of the brain that brings pleasure. And we know there is pleasure associated with anything that is sexual. Whether we are aware of it fully or at the back of our mind, we know that there is something to be had that is gratifying, that will make us feel good when it comes to our sexual behavior. But we may not even understand our sexual behavior the younger we are. As we age, more information is gathered by the brain. More information is gathered by the individual from lessons, from things that are being told. And the person becomes more and more aware of self. When you become more aware of self, you become more aware of your abilities, of the things that are going to stimulate you, the feelings that you have. You know, sometimes we fall in love at a young age. We love our dog. We love our cats. We love our parents. And you may find a person who is not related to you. You have that special feelings for the person, but you cannot equate it with love because you don't understand what love is as yet. But that special feelings remain within you, and you will know how you feel when you come into close proximity of that individual. And these things develop over time. But the arousal part of us comes because it's hormone driven. The hormones in our body causes us to have sexual feelings. And yes, it is true that children who are underage also have sexual feelings, and some of them act upon it. We have had many cases of individuals who are under the age of 10 engaging in masturbation, self-stimulation, because they have become aware of their body and the functions of your bodies and what gives them that pleasure, that pleasurable feelings that they get from self-stimulation. Now, if a child, and these are children, of course, if a child can have such feelings, obviously it's going to expand and extend into their teenage years. Obviously, without the person doing anything, as the person age and the hormones in the individual changes, it becomes stronger. The urges become stronger. As concerned parents, adults in society, teachers and others, guidance counselors and whatnot, how do we deal with these things? How do we deal with the fact that a young lady is having a period before the age of 10 or just around the age of 10? And obviously, if you're having your period, you're going to be having sexual feelings. How do you deal with that? And the person may have questions that they want to ask you as a child. They're asking you as a child about adult things. How do you as an adult deal with that? Not much discussion is given to that in our society, to that age bracket, where children who are underage will have sexual feelings. We want to sweep it under the carpet, bury our heads in the sand and say it does not exist, but it does exist. And because it exists, what are we as a people doing, or what is society doing to provide the education and the information for those individuals who are faced with these things? Because on one hand, the child may be frightened by other individuals into accepting these feelings, and they may think that it is something that is evil. And sometimes we equate evil with natural body functions. And when we do that, we're doing ourselves a disservice. So when you have children thinking that whatever they're doing is a sin, it's evil, I shouldn't be doing it, and I'll go to so-called hell for doing such things or having such feelings, what is happening to the psyche of the individual? What is happening to the brain of that child? Because the parent who the child depends on to get correct information, to be told the correct things, the parents are not educated enough to have that conversation with the child. So we are at a loss in society as to how we will discuss something like that. That's why education, and I don't want to use the word sex education, but I want to use the word education in the broadest form, but also pinpointing the need for education among adults when it comes to things of a sexual nature. And when we take our time to analyze and understand that there are things happening to persons who we don't want it to happen to, nobody wants to know that their child who is 8 years of age having sexual feelings. Nobody wants that. But the reality is it does happen. So if we are ill-equipped to deal with it, we will not be able to help that child to understand their own bodies, their function, their needs and their wants. Because when the urges overtakes the person's ability to control themselves, they behave in a particular way. And that behavior could lead to getting involved in things of a legal manner or doing things that they're not supposed to do. And then we as parents have to deal with those issues. We have to deal with the fact that this is what's happening to our child or our children, and we must come up with a way to deal with it. But like I said, we need to find, first and foremost, who the qualified individual to talk about these things. And if you have persons who have buried their heads in the sand for so long that do not understand that these things exist, who is going to do the teaching? Who is going to give that information so that we will better equip our parents, our single mothers, our single fathers, the persons out there who have to deal with these issues on a day-to-day basis? Because let's face it, it's happening out there in society. We as parents are very busy with our time. We have to spend time doing things that are out of the realm of parenting. We may not be there all the times. Well, we're definitely not there all the times for our children. And they're being bombarded with information about things of a sexual nature, crime, dishonesty, and all the other things that are negative in our society. And since we are on the topic of crime and dishonesty, let's expand that a bit so we'll understand the child's mind better. When a child is constantly hearing about criminal activities, you think there's no development within that child's mind when it comes to criminal activities? They're hearing certain things and they're seeing it glorified in songs and videos and individuals who actually commit these acts. And remember, children are more influenced by their heroes than they are influenced by their parents. Only the well-grounded children, the children who have that structure to show them what is right and wrong, to give them a better understanding of things in society, would have an appreciation for the role and function of their mother, their father, and their parents as a unit, their grandparents, teachers, and others. But in our society, we have been allowing our children to be exposed to crime, criminal activities, and dishonesty for so long, we forget we have to protect them against that. We forget we have to inculcate positive values in our children so they don't go out to emulate what they're hearing and thinking it is the norm. And as we move through society and looking at things that happen on a day-to-day basis, hearing a gunshot doesn't make you quiver anymore. Long ago, if you hear one gunshot between the ages of 1 to 10 years of age, unless your father is a hunter or they have a farm and they have to use a shotgun, you don't know what a gunshot sounds like. But if as a young child you grew up in an environment where gunshots are the order of the day, then what happens to you? You become immune to gunshots. You become immune to chopping. You become immune to seeing dead bodies around you. So if a child brain can develop along those lines with criminal intent, what happens to the child's mind when it comes to things of a sexual nature? And some persons will tell you that pornography is one of the driving forces behind criminal activities, something I don't agree with. Pornography, nowhere in any pornography that teaches you to hold a gun and stick it on somebody's head and hold them up. That is not taught by pornography. Pornography teaches you about sexual act in an entertaining way, but it's not the ideal tool for teaching. So when persons in authority tell you that pornography contributes to criminal activities, I want to see the data. I want to see the science behind that statement. Because for too long we are using statements in this country to justify what is happening in our society without any concrete proof. And you have persons who are leaders in society uttering these garbage, and people are gullible and chewing it up and saying, yes, it's that. But those who are supposed to have the answers, or supposed to provide the answers, not have the answers, but provide the answers and find solutions, are only making excuses. And it takes us back to the realm of the child who needs to have that education to understand his or her changes in his or her body at a young age. So we're moving along in society with all this garbage that is presented to us as factual by different individuals who should know better, professing and giving you statistics that doesn't exist to prove something that they have in their mind. It's a mental thing. It's an ego thing. But the reality of it is it's just not true. There's no truth to it. So, if we want to blame pornography for criminal activities, sexual behavior for criminal activities, the only thing that you could tie that into or with is rape. You can't tie it into a holdup. You cannot tie it into home invasion. So when politicians and leaders in society make such statements, they're trying to appease a segment of society, a piece of society that is their constituency, for they to say that, hey, the minister make a good statement here, but there's no science to back up what he or she has said. And I want us to start thinking along those lines. As a people, we have serious issues. I mean, let's face it, crime affects all of us. Every single Trinidadian and Tobagonian, crime affects us, whether you be East Indian, African, Chinese, Syrian, Portuguese, whatever. Crime affects every single individual, some more than others. And it's something we have to stand up as a people and say, let's deal with it. But while dealing with that, we also have to deal with the misinformation that is being thrown out there to individuals in the form of social media, the mass media, and other forms of information that is just not true. And we as the adults allow it to develop and spiral into something that becomes dangerous. Mark, you and I know that we don't have a racial problem in Trinidad. But race do play a part in the way things happen in Trinidad. But we are not faced with a racial problem as other countries. And unless we start embracing and accepting the fact that race do play a part in behaviors, in criminal activities, we get nowhere. Because we have to look at the perpetrators of crime and the victims of crime. And we must find a demographic. And we must find a way to pinpoint where these things are happening and who it's happening to. And who the one that are doing it. And we have to find a way to reach these individuals, to provide them with a better understanding of life and appreciation for life. And if we need to take the path of sexual education to do so, we should do that. If we need to take the path of letting them understand that when it comes to entertainment, you don't need to degrade women to be an entertainer, let's do it. Don't just pay it lip service by saying it on the news so you get a news clip. And they're featured on the news on any given night. And after that, you do nothing about it. And a lot of people do that. They say whatever they want to say because it is the right things to say for they to get an extra 5 minutes on the news as opposed to doing the action. It's like when you do charity for someone and you see the need to carry 10 camera person with you and highlight all the things that you have done in terms of charity. It may not be money out of your pocket, it might be somebody else donating it, but you want the kudos for it. Your institution wants the bragging rights, but you don't stop to think about what it does to the psyche of the individual who's receiving your charity. How you're belittling that person, how you're highlighting something about that person that they want to keep quiet and secret, their poverty. It's the same thing when we come to the sexual part of human beings. As the person ages and they become more aware of their bodies and their capacity and propensity to do things, there's something called experimentation. Self-experimentation first and foremost, and then experimenting with others. And when you start experimenting with others, that's a different kettle of fish, because things could happen and escalate very, very quickly. Because again, it goes back to the whole idea that sex is pleasurable. And again, we may not think that a child could gain pleasure from sex, but the reality is, yes, it could happen. Not could, yes, it does happen. So as that child ages and they don't have the information, they don't have the knowledge to differentiate what is legal, illegal, pleasurable, not so pleasurable, what could get them pregnant, and other things. And again, if you have young ladies being bred by men out there, making children, and having to provide for that child with whatever little money she is getting, without the support of the sperm donor, what happens? Aren't you breeding? Aren't you creating an environment where that child could become a criminal? Seeing what the mother has to go through to provide, and in his mind, I could do something faster and quicker to earn $1 for my mother. Well, they call it earnings. We don't see it that way. So if we provide the education from now and the formulas from now to deal with teenage pregnancy, single mother pregnancy, and show them a way that is much better than being pregnant and having most of these single mothers, teenagers who become pregnant, dump their child on their mother, or their aunt, or their nenen, or their tanty, because they still want to live and they still want to develop. But the pleasure of sex has curtailed that a bit, because you get pregnant at 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and you don't have a structure to take care of that pregnancy, take care of that child when it comes into the world. You're in serious problems because you still need to live. It's not, some persons will say, well, girls long ago would get married and have a child. Listen to the words, They will get married because society at that time allow a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old or 14-year-old to get married. And once married, that person will have a child because you have the extended family, by which the child who had gotten married is living with the extended family. Her husband may also be underage, but the parents and grandparents will guide that young couple and take care of them as a family unit. But now you're having young persons getting pregnant because, again, of the pleasure of sex, because of the feelings that they get when it comes to sex, and They don't know how to take care of themselves, and they don't understand their own sexual preferences, behavior, feelings, and they now have to take care of a child. How can they educate that child about things of a sexual nature? They can't. And that's why we have the cycle. It's not uncommon to see a woman in her 30s with a grandchild. Has anyone ever stopped to think what was the age of her child when she made the child? Or what was her age when she had a child? Do we stop and think about these things as a society, as a people, as a caring country, as a government? Because the reality of it is somebody had a child young, and that young person had a child young, and that young child is having a child. All because of feelings. Because she have the feelings, the young child, and she go out there to exploit those feelings, and she end up getting pregnant.
It's all about curiosity.
Well, curiosity is part of growing up, isn't it? The younger you are, the more curious you are. And as you are growing up and you're more curious, you want to find out things. And you want to know why these things are happening to me. And some man pull you in a corner and kisses you in a particular way, and you get these feelings and it's amplified, and suddenly you want to have sex. And it's easier to have sex then because you have the feelings. And the curiosity of it is, I wonder what this go feel like. Because I've seen movies that women enjoying themselves. And I've heard my parents talking in a hush-hush tone with their girlfriend or the neighbor next door about who they had sex with and how the sex was so nice and the feelings that they got from it. So, it's what's happening out there. But we're talking about the aging process and the feelings that you have and the arousal that you get as you age. So it may sound like a digression, but it's not. Because the things that we're talking about is they all link as you go along in age, as you develop, as you mature, as you as a person, whenever you get in feelings, you must be able to express those feelings. And in expressing those feelings, am I expressing those feelings in such a way that it's going to be beneficial to me or it's going to cause me harm? Most young girls, and I'm using the word young ladies here, when they get pregnant, they don't even know the responsibility they have yet. They don't understand that yet. For the life of them, they cannot understand the seriousness of what has happened, what has transpired. All they know is that I have something growing inside of me and I want that to come out and I will take care of it. But the reality is this is something that is very expensive to maintain.
Really?
But persons say, don't worry, the Lord will provide. Don't worry, the state will provide. But yes, the state will provide, the good Lord will provide in some way or the other. But is it enough to have that child break the cycle? Is it enough to have that child grow up in comfort where they don't want that happening to them? Is it enough? And the clear-cut answer is no. Because it continues to happen over and over and over.
It's a generational thing.
So, who's going to put a stop to it? Who is going to lift their fingers and say, here what? We need to put a stop to this. We need to change this. When is it going to happen? Additionally, the young men who have these feelings, what do? they're looking for the closest person, related or not, to stick it in, to have sex with. And in experimenting and curiosity could be same-sex experimenting, because it's easier to experiment and find a solution than to abstain. Abstaining is not an easy thing, you know. When someone preaches abstinence and tell you just say no and don't do this and don't do that, it is not as easy as just saying no. Especially if it's hormone driven. If your body is telling you you need to masturbate, you think any amount of prayer is going to stop that? It's not. So the difficulty here lies in the fact that we have feelings, but we also have control factors. But the control factors are not realistic. It's not the right control factors. It's not the factors that's going to ensure that we develop as good human beings, as good, have a good understanding of things of a sexual nature. It's not. And that's where the problem lies. So, when you have a society developing along those lines, and it's not the majority who are developing in that arena where they are less educated about things of a sexual nature. But I'll tell you something. That portion of our society that is in that perpetual cycle of teenage pregnancy and no one to take care of the child and all those things, it's growing. It's growing. When we were children, it's something unheard of. But as we got older, we realized that there were more and more persons who were teenagers, who were underage, and they were getting pregnant. And now that we are adults, we realize that there's an explosion of that happening. And I could tell you from my business, 90% of the time, the young ladies who come here for a job, they are a single parent. 90%. When we were growing up and in our parents' business, that wasn't even 10%. So from 1980s to now, it has moved from 10% to 90%. And I could use statistics because I have been in it. I know the recruitment process my parents used to use to hire people to work for us, whether it be casual labor, short-term labor, or long-term. But I'll tell you, less than 10% of those young ladies who came and applied for a job were single mothers. Less than 10%. And I think I'm being very generous to say 10%. But now, in my business, where we need workers, 90% of those who come for a job are single parents for one reason or the other. Very few have a family structure. Very few has a support, or very few hasn't been pregnant yet. And that's the reality of it. But this arousal does not stop as you age. It does not go away. It's not something that's going to, you just wave a magic wand and it disappears. Arousal is real. Libido is real. Sex drive is real. It's what makes us human. I said before that when animals want to procreate, recreate themselves, the female of the species will go in heat. And then she becomes receptive to the male. And they will have intercourse and breed, as we say, or have young ones. And the male of the species goes on his merry way, and the female is left to take care of the young one. That's animal behavior. That is not supposed to be human behavior. Human behavior is that you have both parties taking care of the child. Because there are some things that the male can do for the child and for the mother that the mother does not have the capacity to do when she's taking care and nurturing the child. And that's the reality of it. That is what marriage and a union is all about, whether it be common law or living together or whatever you want to call it. That is what it is about. But marriage now sanctifies that union. That's what it is. In the eyes of the law and in the eyes of the Lord. Whatever religion you may belong to, there's no religion that tells you don't get married. There's no religion that tells you that getting married is a sin or a crime. It allows for that. And it wants you to do that. Because they know that's the proper structure. And there are persons who will question that and say, how do they know that's the proper structure? Well, with experience over time, and years and years and years and years and thousands of years of experience, they know that's the better way. So that arousal that we're talking about in the pre-teen age, and we're going now into the teenage, into adulthood period of our lives, male and female, that's when the experimenting becomes more embroiled in you. That's when you want to have as much interaction as possible with the opposite sex. And you want to enjoy the things that you can get from the opposite sex. Because of that level of sex drive that you have, the libido. There are factors that we spoke about generally in many programs that will affect one's libido, sex drive. And those are medical factors, but they are also psychological factors. Sometimes your sex drive is developed along a certain line. Sometimes you are indoctrinated or introduced into a sexual realm that you was not even aware of, same-sex relationship. And in doing the same-sex relationship, whether it was forced upon you or you voluntarily decided to try it out, you could develop a liking for it. Anything in sex, you see, sex and sexual behavior is conditioning of the mind all the time, you know. You're constantly conditioning your mind for certain things. And when you are exposed to those things, you may not have known about it before. You may never have heard about it before. And suddenly someone is putting this to you, that let's perform oral sex on each other and your same sex, and you realize you don't feel guilty about it before because you're hormone driven. You have the feelings for it. You're curious about it. And you decide to do it and you reciprocate whatever is being done. And you realize now that, hey, this ain't so bad. I like what is happening. Isn't that grounds for you to expand upon that?
Yes, it is.
So you would expand upon it by finding individuals to do things with. And you become more and more embroiled in it. You become more and more trapped in that same-sex relationship or that same-sex understanding. And then it becomes more physical than emotional. Because in emotional sense, when you talk about having feelings for someone, it's usually having feelings for the opposite sex. It's usually having feelings that I want to be close to that person, he or she, because they make me feel as though I have butterflies in my stomach. How many homosexual relationship involves that? The majority don't. The majority involves a physical act and a physical act only. It's the satisfaction of a physical act in a homosexual type relationship. The arousal will be there because you see the person, a guy sees a guy and they're attracted to the guy, but that attraction is not a deep attraction of love and wanting to be with that person for the rest of their life. attraction quickly forms into something sexual. Quickly, very quickly. Same thing with females. It's all about how I could get you in bed and what we could do in bed. But the more you feed it, the faster it grows
And the more you
and the more it
crave.
consumes you
Yeah.
and you crave it. It consumes you. That's why I have to tell some of my patients, when you're taking treatment, make sure you engage in sexual relationship with your partner, your girlfriend, your wife, whoever it may be. Because if you don't, you're not going to get the benefits of the treatment. The body needs that stimulation. We need to know that the libido is being expanded. So folks, for those of you who are paying attention on www.powerwater2fm.com, remember Saturday Night Fever, Saturday the 20th of May, Passage to Asia in Chaguanas, 12 DJs to entertain you from 8 o'clock. The Passage to Asia restaurant is at number 7 St. Ives Street in Chaguanas. Ample parking for everyone. Safe, secure environment, air conditioned. We're in the chandelier room upstairs. DJs, Rishi Ram, Dr. Ross, Dr. Hyde, Cardo, Sensational Sammy, Greg, George Gonzalez, Carrie, Spanish Papi, Kyle, Chump, and of course Trevor Gore, our entertainer for the night. He would be there. It's the place where the celebrities would be there because it is the ultimate back in times party. The best you'll ever encounter for the year and otherwise. That's why you need to be there. Tickets are $200 general admission. And yes, you have to buy your own drinks. I know person have asked that question before. VIP tickets are $450. You get a full meal, you're in the VIP section, and you have 2 alcoholic beverages. After that, you purchase the rest of your beverages. Music from the 70s, 80s, 90s. We're dancing all night. And of course, it's also my birthday celebration. Don't forget that. My birthday is on the 16th of May, and we're celebrating on the 20th of May. I take a little break before we get back to the topic at hand. David, you there? So, with the aging population, with persons who are aging, we know that there are changes that are going to take place in our physical ability, in our physical abilities. We know that there are changes that are going to take place in our core, our brain, simply because as we age, we are reacting to certain things. Let me tell you what we'll react to. We'll react to our environment. We'll react to nutrition. We will react to diseases. We'll react to our education levels. We'll react to our peers and peer pressure. We'll react to our jobs. And all those things can affect our sexual behavior both positively and negatively. Poor diet can affect the way you function sexually. poor diet can do that. The environment in which you grow up, the things that you are taught can also affect you sexually. But before we continue with this information, let's deal with some of the questions that we may have.
What do you do if your sex drive is higher than your partner?
There is a difficulty when it comes to that. When person's sex drive, one party in the relationship sex drive is stronger than the other person, it affects you. It's going to cause problems in the relationship, and you have to be able to adjust. You have to be able to adjust to compromise when it comes to that, because it's not something that you could say, let's leave it alone. You can't leave it alone, because if one partner's sex drive is up here and the other partner's sex drive is down there, you're not going to enjoy being with one another. And we all know that in a relationship you need to be compatible. And if your sex drive does not mesh around the same levels, there's incompatibility, and with incompatibility brings about a lot of problems. Next.
If someone doesn't crave sex at all and is unable to get or sustain an erection, and this is causing them to suffer from performance or anxiety, what can they do?
If a person has erectile dysfunction or performance anxiety and whatnot, they need professional help. They would need to come to a sexologist like myself and deal with it. There are things that you can do to find out what is causing that. There are tests that can be done to find out if they have whatever form of sexual dysfunction they may have, what's contributing to it, and then it's dealt with. But many a times our ego gets in the way and we tell ourselves we don't need professional help. I could handle it and I could change it, but they may not have the capacity and the ability to do so.
How can a man regain control of his erections?
It depends on the reason he has lost his erection. Let's say, for example, he has a serious injury that interferes with the nerves going to the penis. There's not much you can do, right? If it's related to something, lifestyle disease such as diabetes, there are things that you can do to reverse the process, but you may not get an erection that is 100%. It may be 1% of what you are accustomed with, but it's better than none. So again, in a consultation with a professional, he or she will be able to tell you what is best and what you can get from it. An honest sexologist, because there are dishonest sexologists out there who claim to be sexologists, but all they care about is making money. They don't really care about helping individuals with their issues, with the things that they need to deal with.
Next question is, let's say you're with someone that's in a wheelchair, right? How can you have sex with them and make it pleasurable, enjoyable?
Very good question, and I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm sure my friend Dr. Kiran out there, he will be happy that you asked that question. People who are restricted because of an accident or whatever, or differently able, doesn't mean to say they can't have sex, you know. Some of my biggest fans out there are persons who are in the blind society, visually impaired society. I have known many individuals who have had accident and they're confined to a wheelchair, but they could still have sex. First and foremost is oral sex. Secondly, although you're confined to a wheelchair, you can still move from the wheelchair to a bed. And once you have an erection, the woman could take the position of going on top or even the person could go on top, depending on the level of their how they're incapacitated in their movements. So you have to work with the person, and the person who is getting involved, who has been confined to a wheelchair, who's visually impaired or otherwise, must know his or her limitations, what they can and cannot do. And once they understand that and they're willing to work with their limitations, there's so much they can do. I've had persons who have been confined to a wheelchair say, don't feel sorry for me. I could get an erection. I will have sex. It's just to find the person to have the sex with. Because persons believe that they cannot have sex. But that's not true. There's so many things that person can do. Another thing, let's say the person cannot get an erection, incapable of getting an erection. There are toys that you can incorporate in your action with your partner that will give both of you pleasure. Sometimes the pleasure is not the feelings that you get from what you're doing, but from the act of whatever you're doing to the other person. That is pleasurable also. So there are a number of things that you can do as a person who has been incapacitated, a person who's been confined to a wheelchair, to enjoy a good sexual life, providing that their partner or partners are willing.
If someone is shy in bed, how can they break out of that shyness?
Shyness takes a little more time, but trust is one of the things that you need to have. You must trust your partner and his or her direction when it comes to overcoming that shyness in bed. And the direction that the person is giving you, verbally or otherwise, you must follow it. And you must, as a person, in following it, understand what is happening to you as a person. If there's positive changes, if it's something that is making you more excited. And if it is, by all means, give in to it. Experiment with it. Do more with it.
Will consistent toy or vibrator use ruin your orgasm with your partner?
It could. It could. Like everything else, too much of one thing is good for nothing. And if you are accustomed triggering your orgasm from vibration, do not expect that with normal penetration you're going to have an orgasm.
If you have
You will need to incorporate the toy to do that, to trigger it.
Okay. So let's say if the person goes down there, they could put the vibrator
Correct.
to help.
To help.
Okay.
Stimulate it.
If you have an STI, how do you become sexually confident again?
Well, it depends on which STI you have, how you got it, and how it's treated. If it's an STI that is common, like let's say, for example, a bladder infection, that should not interfere with your sexual behavior. But some persons, they become conscious or self-conscious. If that happens, you have to now recondition your mind, and that word reconditioning comes up again, into understanding what you have gotten and how you're going to overcome those things. You can speak with a professional. You could talk to your doctor. You could talk to your partner. See how your partner understands you and how accepting they are of whatever is happening or happened.
Next question is, can all women handle anal?
No.
No.
For some women, it's very painful. For some women, they're totally against having anal intercourse. Some women have hemorrhoids, so it's not pleasurable. So there are a number of things that can affect a woman's ability to have anal intercourse. For those who do have intercourse and enjoy it, they'll tell you they love it. But not all women are capable of having anal intercourse.
How does female orgasm relate to consciousness?
Consciousness in what sense?
Meaning, like, let's say a person doesn't really understand how to make themselves orgasm, but let's just say they see a person, they like a person, they get with the person and they have sex and they can only orgasm thinking at or looking at that person. How does it relate to consciousness?
Well, that the consciousness there is your focus on the individual. And if you need to focus on something to have an orgasm, that is part and parcel of the behavior of a human being. We need to always think about something to trigger for orgasm. So whatever it takes to trigger that orgasm, you must always have that in the front of your mind when you want to have your orgasm. But if a woman cannot have an orgasm and she's with a person who has brought her to that point where she actually feels like having an orgasm, consciously now she'll be seeking out that individual again because she will want to have that feelings, and she may now start thinking that I could cross the barrier. If the person is doing such a lousy job that it turns her off as opposed to turning her on, her conscious mind is not going to want to be with that person.
Let's just say you have been together with a person for a very long time, like 10 plus years, and let's say you have about 2 to 3 children. How do you build intimacy back in that relationship?
First of all, you have to appreciate the fact of who that person is to you. Many a times we fall in love, we get married, we live with one another, person gets pregnant for you, and when the person gets pregnant for you more in a protective mode, you start seeing the person differently. You don't see the person as a sexual object anymore. And all persons who are in such relationships supposed to see the opposite party as a sexual object also. It's part and parcel of being in a relationship. You now have to understand that there are changes that the person has gone through in having 2 to 3 children, physically, mentally, emotionally. You, as a father of those children, we're talking about a father of the children, right?
Yes.
Have to appreciate the fact that, yes, you have matured because now you have 3 children. But at the same time, the woman who had those 3 children for you is also your lover. So you have to appreciate her. You have to appreciate what she's doing. You have to appreciate the fact that this woman has contributed to your betterment. And you have to start allowing that appreciation to develop into love, to make your love grow, for you to have more feelings towards her. And that's how you start building back up. Sometimes the love diminishes as you go longer in a relationship. But the most wonderful feeling in the world for a couple is when you fall in love all over again every single day.
Can little gestures work as well?
Of course, small gestures, small gifts, saying nice things to one another, making each other smile or laugh or giggle is also important. Because those are the things that breaks the ice. Those are the things that makes the romance develop. You want to present her with some flowers? Get some flowers and present it to her. You don't have to buy flowers. You can pick a flower and give it to her.
But with that same question, what if postpartum had a part to play with?
Very good question. If
Because-
postpartum have a part to play, you have to show that woman more appreciation now. You have to be by her side. You cannot abandon her and go and lie in the rum shop. Because the person becomes so depressed that they become suicidal. They could develop anger towards you, resentment, all these things.
Because the body went through a sort of trauma.
Trauma, and not only the trauma, but there's a psychological part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And in that psychological part of it, she starts seeing you as the enemy. You made her pregnant.
Some people doesn't take postpartum very seriously.
It's very serious. Postpartum depression have led mothers to infanticide, kill their child.
Not to stray, but I think that is something that we should really be spending time on educating people with. I don't know, like even in Lumas, they teach that, like dealing with that if the person end up in that situation. But I think it's something we should.
Yes,
look
of
into.
course. we need to touch on it. And I'm not an expert on postpartum depression, but I'm sure they are out there. And if they want to come and talk about it, fine. The little that I know, I could share it. But I more know it from the standpoint of what it does to the family unit, what it does to the male,
The after effect.
the after effects, and what it does to the psyche of the individual who's going through postpartum.
Especially if the person end up being a single mother and that child reminds you of the
Rape.
father.
Rape is one of those things that acts in a terrible way.
And you grow up resenting that child as a child.
Correct. Correct. So there are so many things out there that needs to be answered. So many things. I've been doing this for 23 years. 23 years, folks. And I'm not tired of doing it. I'm still energized to do it. I may have my ups and downs as far as sometimes my health is concerned. Sometimes I cannot talk properly. I have the common cold. I may have picked up a virus or something. But the fact remains that there's information out there that people need. I may not remember everything, and I didn't even think about the postpartum part of it. And you brought it up. Last question, I didn't think about that either. So there are things out there. I cannot think about everything all the time. But when somebody asks the question, I will try to give the best answer that I have. Like I said, I'm not going to profess to be an expert in everything. I'm not. But at the same time, I have a better understanding than the average man when it comes to things in general.
Going back to the topic beforehand, do you think that sex education should be in secondary school's curriculum?
Short answer. Yes, but taught by whom? We do not have a program in our country where persons in authority can learn properly about sex education. In order to do that, you'll have to have workshops with educators, teachers, by persons who are educated in sex, medically, sexology, psychiatry, sociology, and have these workshops done over a period of time to retool and re-engineer these teachers so they have a better understanding of things of a sexual nature, because a lot of teachers go into the system with their own biases, their own biases. They may be against same-sex relationship because of their church, because of the way they were brought up. How do you make, I don't know the figures for teachers, but I assume, and this is an assumption, that it's over 1,000 teachers in the country. Okay? So if we have 1,000 teachers that you need to re-educate and retool as far as understanding sex and sexology, it's not an easy job. And those persons will still go with their biases and try to teach.
And just to state, not about the explicit version about
No.
education, but just
sex
so
education
that,
is not porn.
just so that youths know how to protect themselves and learn about family planning and those type of stuff.
Again, how do you talk to a teacher in a Catholic school about protection when you're not allowed to? How do you do that?
True.
How do you retool a teacher who has been taught certain things by their religion to overcome those things and put it aside and teach what is science?
It's not just that too, it's also that the time has changed drastically, because they might be talking with their
yes,
old
the time
thinking.
has changed drastically. The the way information is disseminated has changed, but people are still stuck in religious ways, you know. Let's face it, people are stuck in religious ways. It's part and parcel of who they are, and you can't take that away from them. You can't fault them for thinking that way.
True.
So, how do you retool these individuals? It's not an easy job. And nobody, and I'll tell you this, nobody's going to stand up in Parliament and say, let's create a school to teach sex education. Because immediately that person is not going to win the seat the next time. And every politician wants to win the seat.
First thing you hear, you're grooming with drug.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But the reality is children are being groomed.
But they're being groomed with the wrong
In
things.
the wrong things, exactly.
Of course. But again, if anyone comes up with anything, okay, let's say somebody go and say, let's change the laws on prostitution in Trinidad and Tobago. You think that person is going to win the next election? No. All the church in his area or her area going to come down and say, yeah, well, we don't want you to go up again. Look what you're trying to do. Change the society, make prostitution legal. The man might never have said he became prostitution legal, you know. But change the way we view prostitution.
If you want to regulate it, but
Yeah. So most politicians, their interest is the next term, you know. What do I do for my constituency to ensure that I go up the next time and my constituency accept me for the next election? So they don't want to rock the boat. They're not like me who will come up and say something and I have no constituency to pander to. I talk generally and there are haters out there. There are persons who hate what I say and hate me for saying it. But I don't have to answer to them. I answer to myself. Politicians don't have that latitude to say that I don't have to answer to nobody. They have to answer to every person who put the X next to their name and those who didn't. So you have to understand that about politicians. That's why they don't have testicular fortitude. They don't have the balls to change things. Very few of them do. Because they know when they mess with the status quo what's going to happen to them. Then they may have a boss who have a different way of thinking, and he or she might tell them, no, you can't go and say that. We don't want that. That is not the party line. You want to teach people about sex? That is not the party line. Go talk to Dr. Raj. So you understand these things.
When some of these constituencies could need that kind of teaching, could do it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We need it because we have to understand the changes that is taking place. When we talk about arousal across the board, from age 18, legal age you're talking about, but we talk about in preteen and teenage years, all the way up to expiration. Whether your expiration is at 50, 60, 70, 80, 85, 90. You are going to expire. Every day you live is a day closer to the grave. Every single day you live is one day closer to the grave. And you don't know that expiry date. We all have an expiry date. Best before. But it's not best before, expired on. That's what it is. Expired on. You are going to expire. You're going to die. But yet still, there are individuals who want that arousal throughout their life until they die. And nothing wrong with that. But is understanding the changes that takes place as you age with both male and female. When you have an up in your sex drive, like the first question she asked, a woman who has hit 40, and that time the man's sex drive dropping like this, like a big boulder in the sea, or a junk of lead you drop in the water. It's sinking to the bottom, and her sex drive going up. What happens then? What happens to the incompatibility? How do we deal with these things? Man working 24/7. Well, not 24/7. Let me say 12/7. 12/5. Not 8/5, 12/5. He tired when he come home. But he's still watching the little sports in the night time. He still want to relax a little bit by watching a movie. And then he goes to bed. He goes to bed at 10 o'clock to be up at 4 to start preparing to go to work and face the horrendous traffic we have in society. You think so traffic don't affect our sexual ability? Traffic in our country is the number one cause of our stress and sexual dysfunction. Traffic. So he has not gotten a full night's sleep and his testosterone is depleted. You think he's going to come home and want to make love to his wife?
No.
He wants to go to sleep. He's tired. He's exhausted. On weekends, the fathers and them want to go and make a river lime, he go on a Saturday. So he is studying, he has to stay home and rest now. He want to lime. He want to be with the gang. He want to be with the boys. Well, you can't use the word gang. He want to be with the partners and them. Sunday, he take the family out for a drive. They go and visit family. They stay up late. He come back home. Go to sleep again, 10 o'clock. Next day, he tired because he need a vacation from the 2 days that he just had. And the cycle continues into the next week, into the next week, into the next week. Your hormones are changing. The women who are home and they have polycystic ovaries, bad diet, thing contributing to they not having their period regularly, their sex drive is going to be out of whack. Or those who have plenty time and they're watching porn whole day, their sex life is going to be strange. There are things that affect your sex life positively and negatively, you know. And what we consider to be negatively is positive for the person, you know. For example, if a person over masturbate because they're watching porn 3-4 times for the day and they masturbate 3-4 times a day and they ejaculate or have an orgasm, we as sexologists will tell you that's negative. It's not supposed to be so. And the person who having the fun doing it, he'll tell you, oh, you're mad, I do that every day, boy, what? I don't care about what you have to say. I like the feelings. I don't care about the long-term effect until the long-term comes along. Man who like to smoke marijuana. You know, fellas just tell me smoking marijuana doesn't affect your sex life.
It does.
Oh, I'm not going to argue with you.
Them is the expert.
If you say smoking marijuana does not affect your sex life, and you're sitting in front of me with a sexual dysfunction, then what caused it? Smoking cigarettes affects your sex life badly, worse than marijuana. Vaping, which is the worst thing they ever invented, because all you're doing is sucking chemicals into your lungs, causes sexual dysfunction faster than marijuana and cigarettes.
Because it's supposedly safer. That's what they say, safer.
What's safe about vaping? If you're steaming something in a bowl and you're taking that vape, that might be good for you, but men just use that to shrink their balls. So what are you doing to your body? You do that when you have the common cold, you cover your head over a basin and you put some Vicks in it and
Open up your pores.
yeah. Or you're doing a facial, you know about doing a facial.
And how often do you do that, eh?
Once in a blue moon. But you smoking a vape every single day and you want to tell me that more healthy, well, go ahead. When you end up in the hospital, tell the nurse and doctor that. When you see your medical bill, tell the insurance company, whoever, that vaping caused that, man. You see, we always try to justify whatever we're doing wrong. Whatever we're doing wrong, we want to justify that. So we'll justify drinking excessive amount of alcohol. And you know what is the justification? Well, if I had drink with my partners and then they wouldn't lie with me. Well, don't lie with me. If you think that I have to drink with you to be a friend, you're sadly mistaken.
Your friend's more important than your health. That's what they basically see.
Well, I don't want friends like that. I prefer not to have friends.
Don't come here for no land to your casket.
They are coming to see you. See, when you get a stroke or a heart attack and you're in hospital, for the first few days, everybody coming to see you, you know. Let a month pass now.
Everybody forgets you.
They ain't picking up the phone to call you to find out how you're feeling. And that's human nature. You can't blame people for that. But it's the reality of what happens. The same friend that would meet you every day to come and take a drink with you would not come by the hospital bed and sit down with you for 10 minutes, you know. They're too busy.
They're going back in the same bus down with everybody else.
And say, hey boy, you know, George got a heart attack there, boy. I feel sorry for him. Let me take one for George.
Yeah. And when they die, they say, let me pour one out for him.
Yeah. And that's the reality of it. And poor you now saying I was my best friend, they were the people I can't do without. And they forsake you, they're done with you. They're done with you.
That's why you have to be a leader, not a follower.
Correct. You lead and others follow, but you lead with good examples. You lead with good examples. You don't have to do what the masses are doing to enjoy yourself. So when you have changes in your libido and changes in your drive sexually, you must know, I need to fix things. I need to do X, Y, or Z. Because I want to be better. Because I want to feel better. Because I need to make me happy. Our purpose in life is to create happiness for each other, for ourselves. But if I am unhappy, how can I make my spouse happy? How can you make your loved one happy if you are unhappy? You can't. It's impossible. So happiness has to be for you first. Take care of you first. Understand you and what you need in life. And don't tell me things that are harmful to your body is what makes you happy. Then you're a damn fool. If you're telling me drinking alcohol will make you happy, you are a fool. Smoking marijuana does make you happy, you are a fool. Smoking cigarettes does make you happy, you are a fool. Because you have a man working for, let's say, $200 a day. And he's smoking a pack and a half to 2 packs of cigarettes a day. And a pack of cigarettes is, let me say, $30.
Yeah.
That's $60 from $120 is $140. On what? On putting chemicals in your body? And you call yourself a smart man? You have to be the most dotish person out there.
And some of them is say words kind of swear that we got a mental switch. And the flavor. What is that?
Well, I wouldn't know. I don't smoke, so I wouldn't. So you cannot be putting poison into your body and say you're making yourself happy. You know, it's a classic. Smoking gives you cancer, which is a fact. First time I talked about smoking on the air was 2003. I had a serious discussion on smoking. Very soon, the tobacco company in Trinidad, I guess they used to listen to me, put up a billboard on the highway with a cigarette burning and the ashes pointing down, indicating that you could get erectile dysfunction from smoking. Now they're not allowed to advertise, that's why you don't see them anymore. Right? So they put up a billboard on the highway there in Morang showing that. But you're putting chemicals in your body. You have very little tobacco in a cigarette. You have chemicals in cigarette. And I listed all the chemicals. I think there was something like 35 different chemicals in a cigarette. Including formaldehyde, what it is used to preserve dead animals, and gasoline.
That sounds extremely toxic.
It's very toxic.
You're smoking a mini rocket.
You're making yourself into. But you know when you tell a man smoking causes cancer, you know what you go tell you? My grandfather smoked for 500 years and he didn't get cancer yet.
And another thing.
Are you your grandfather?
Another thing.
But what did your grandfather die from? A massive heart attack. Okay, they get cancer.
Another thing, on the boxes itself tells you all the, you know, diseases and stuff that you could get.
Nobody has read that.
Nobody just read that. They still go and buy it. They just watch it. And
But the Surgeon General in the United States say, well, in Trinidad, the Minister of Health advises that smoking can be dangerous to your health. Well, who reads that?
Nobody.
Nobody reads that.
Because the boxes are prettier than the information.
Correct. The information is black writing on white side, and the box design is what you're watching in front. You want to pack at that here, the blue, only the blue rainbow.
And that message at the bottom of the box. You're looking on top of the box. You flipping it.
Correct. So, if you are telling me that whatever you're using for your happiness can cause, forget the word death. Death is final. Some people are care to die. But the suffering that comes before death, and you're still considering that? There is so much suffering that comes before death, when you're bedridden, when you have diseases, expensive suffering that comes before you die. Don't play the fool with that. Don't. You have to understand your happiness. And your happiness shouldn't be sex driven, but you should understand the role that sex plays in your life, the role that a good libido plays in your life to enjoy life. How many men and women walking around in our society frustrated because they have had good sex?
A lot.
A lot is right. A hell of a lot. Because they have incompatibility in their relationship. Because the man is unable to satisfy the woman is unable to satisfy the man for whatever reason. And you have a lot of couples out there who don't have sex for one reason or the other. And they are not contented in their relationship because they know they're supposed to do certain things and they're supposed to have certain feelings and they're not getting it. So what do we face? We face a society out there that is frustrated.
Sexually frustrated.
That leads to other kind of frustration. And they are the ones that we have to interact with on a daily basis, whether it be at an institution, at a government office, in a maxi, in a store, wherever you go. How many persons you see can't smile? And when you tell them something pleasant, they're so shocked. They're more in shock than they're happy. Because they don't know what a compliment sounds like.
And that compliment may just make their day.
Correct? There's so many persons who get turned on by certain things that they see throughout the day. And by the time they reach home, they're so frustrated because of the traffic jam again, that when they reach home, all the sexual excitement they have on them has been drained from their body. So they cannot be sexual with their partner, their wife, their husband, whoever it may be. They can't. Because they're physically and mentally drained sitting down in traffic. If we ease the traffic problem that we have in Trinidad, we'll be a much happier people here. It might be difficult to understand, but if we can alleviate the traffic woes that we have in this country, we will be a much happier people. That is one of the things the government ministers could contemplate doing. Persons surely will vote for you the next time. If you could come up with a solution to ease the traffic problem in Trinidad, that person there for life. Everybody will remember you. That you were able to ease up with frustration on the road instead of taking 3 hours for me to reach to work in the morning. It's taking me a cool 45 minutes. And let's face it, nowhere in Trinidad is really that far from one point to the other end.
It's a small country.
Yeah.
No, a lot of people forget we live on an island.
A small island. Not a big island. We live in a small island. A tiny island. So if you jump in a car in San Fernando, you drive within the speed limit with no traffic, excessive traffic on the road, you're in Port of Spain in 45 to 50 minutes. That is impossible. That's impossible to do given the present circumstances. So instead of you trying to find other solutions, let's find a solution for that and be able to do things. You don't even have to go up. You don't even have to go up for any party. You could go up independent and win. I can guarantee you that. However, that person who solved that, going up, I go in there and vote. I'm going to register there to vote for that person because they have solved a major issue in our country, a major problem. So getting back to the aging process and the drive, the libido that we have. Yes, it will diminish with age. And no, you cannot be as you were when you were 18 if you're 85. Sorry, folks. Stop coming and tell me I want to feel like when I was 18 and you're now 65 years of age with diabetes and hypertension. It's never going to come back. That's not going to happen. Very few men are the same weight, size, and whatever else when they were 18 and they're now 55. Very rare you'll find that. Therefore, if you have aged over the years, accept the fact that you will have challenges and accept the fact that with those challenges, there will be failure on your part to perform. Know your limitations, know what you can and cannot do. Be able to put your best foot forward, given your circumstances, given your level of excitement, understanding what could restrain your movement and restrict you. And you'll have a better relationship. Things will be better. Any more questions?
Well, I had one more question, but I just wanted to know what has been your favorite or most interesting thing or story as a sexologist.
You have me thinking, I've had many encounters and many stories. Nothing I could think of immediately. I've had many challenges. I've seen many things happen positively for individuals, much more positive than negative. My success rate in treating people is about 94%. The failures come about from persons not following up on what they're supposed to do. Some people migrating or working offshore and they can't come back on time and whatnot. My greatest accomplishment is helping persons to have children. But to pinpoint one thing that I can say, this has impacted me the most, or that has impacted me the most, I really cannot say, but there are things that have done that. One of the things that I can tell you that have made me who I am today, and I'm forever grateful to Melissa Sohan, Marcel Mahabe, and Ingrid Isaac, is being able to come on Power 102 in the year 2000 and start talking about sex. Talk about sex in a holistic way. Give people information. And that, to me, has created the greatest impact in my life. Although I had the clinic and were doing things, it is being able and given the opportunity by these three persons having faith in me. And the person who was instrumental in that, and I always give him kudos, is Devant Maharaj. Devant is the one who told Marcel Mahabir that you need to have this guy on your radio station. We weren't friends, so I can't say it was nepotism that made him do that. He knew of my ability, and he suggested to Marcel Mahabir that I should be on radio. And from radio, I used to do articles before, and I guess that's where Devant learned about me. For the Bomb newspaper, the Mirror newspaper, the Sunday Punch, the Guardian, the Wire. There was a newspaper called the Wire, Express. All of them did articles on me and whatnot. I used to do feature articles. From radio, it blossomed and grew. And I think my audience that I have from that time till now is the greatest. I still meet people who knew me when I started off. I remember the first program. I did a drive time program at 4 o'clock in the evening on sex, I have pioneered many things in the country. I've taken many chances. I've done things that other persons will look at and say, that man mad to be doing that. But the reality of it is that I always was focused on educating, informing, entertaining. My co-host on radio, Christian, the deceased Christian, my good friend, Ruben Mohammed, Tom, he was visually impaired. He was my co-host for a while. There were so many who passed through. Adrian Hackshaw, third base. These are people who I always was happy to interact with, and I'm thankful. Junior Saldana, most important, he stayed with me the longest. And Junior Saldana and we created a bond. Sensational Sammy was there just before me, and we would have this rapport when I walk into the studio. It was all energy. I always remember, that's why I love Sensational Sammy so much. When I walk into the studio, the energy that I got from this guy when he was wrapping up his program for me to start my program, it's just unbelievable. I know I'm missing. Oh, I did program with Sir Charles. I did daytime programs, nighttime programs, Boom Champion. I did other radio stations. But all these years, these people stood by me and helped me in my journey. My patients, my clients, they are the ones who always support. That's why I'm looking for their support for Saturday Night Fever, because I want them to come and party with me. It's my 60th birthday. Come celebrate, come party with me. It's what I want to do. So I'm appealing to everyone out there who are listening, who have been part of my journey. There's a song called Zindagi Ka Safar, which is my favorite, one of my favorite songs. It means journey through life. In my journey through life, I've had many encounters. And I'm happy to say that my encounters were all very positive and strengthening. Even Steve Kahn, who was part of management of Power 102, he would drop in sometime and be on my program. So when Saturday Night Fever comes along on the 20th of May, I want to see all these people there. I want to see all these celebrities who interacted with me over the years. I want them there. And remember, folks, it's on the 20th of May at Passage Stage at Chaguanas, number 7 St. Ives Street in Chaguanas. Music from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. 12 top DJs, 1 guest DJ. Celebrating my birthday on that night. It would have been gone, which was the 16th. So, no presents. Just come and be present. DJ Caro, my boy, he running the show. Dr. Hyde, Dr. Ross, George Gonzalez, Sensational Sammy, Rishi Ram, DJ Greg, Trevor Gore, DJ Kari, DJ Kyle, Spanish Papi, Chumps, Team Unstoppable. Be there. Party with me. Come enjoy yourself. Have fun. Tickets are on sale at all Dr. Raj Adult Boutique. Also on sale at Total Image in St. Augustine. It's on sale at Medicine Stop in Chaguanas. On sale at Mitlin Hardware in Aruka. Second Crossing Hardware, Aruka and Arima. Hope I'm not forgetting anyone. That's where you can get your tickets. And of course, it's a Dr. Raj and Darpan promotion presentation. So those of you who are familiar with Darpan out of Sangre Grande, they have had many concerts and big parties and whatnot. They have a chutney fest that they always have in Sangre Grande. You can get your ticket from Darpan in Sangre Grande. They have a grocery also in Sangre Grande. So folks, if you want to get your tickets, get in contact with the head office in St. Augustine. You can call me directly, 740-1961. You can get in touch with any one of the ticket outlets and get your tickets. Come in a group, come by yourself. There'll be lots of lovely single ladies there that night for the guys. And single ladies, plenty single men. So come and enjoy yourself. Over to you, my friend.
Yes, man. Sound like a star-studded cast.
It is. It is.
That's it, Dr. Rogers, my boy. I like your vibe too much.
Thank you. All the best.
Okay, have a wonderful weekend and most of all, be safe.
Yes, you too.
Okay.
Recording stopped.